Well, hello, Young and the Restless Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Thursday, June the, excuse me, Thursday, June the 15th, 2023. Thursday, June the 15th. Okay, let's dive right in. They kind of, it moved, but right now we got this one big storyline going, and I'm telling you, well, actually, kind of two. I'm happy they're moving the Sharon Cameron Kirsten storyline like right along. That's the way they need to do it. Let's not make something that could take what, 2 weeks? Nice little grand total of 2 weeks. Let's not make it 6 months, right? Well, we have Connor. Chelsea's worried about Connor. And if you notice, because the actress is really progressing in her pregnancy, we don't see Chelsea standing up too much. She's usually sitting at a table at the coffee house. Well, Billy bought her a cup of coffee and a snack, a brownie for Connor. And Chelsea was saying, yeah, he refused to come out of his room. He's doing his homework. He wanted to be alone. And so she's like, I just don't know how to reach him. She called Adam and said, you know what? It's getting worse. I thought it was getting better, but I think we need to seriously look at a child psychologist for Connor because he needs somebody to talk this through. So pretty much soon her and Billy were just chit-chatting, and Billy was going to take the treat up to Connor, and Connor comes walking through the door. And he apologizes to Chelsea, for not wanting to come out of his room. And so they have a little chat, her, Billy, and Connor. And Connor does admit, yeah, his problem is, once he found out that the baby was on its way, it just kind of took him for a little loop, you know. I was just thinking, yes, Sage was pregnant, but guess what? They thought Sage was Nick's baby, right? Little Christian. Connor didn't have to deal with that, having a sibling, until guess what? When when Nick and Chelsea got together, then Connor was forced to deal with the sibling. And remember, he dealt horribly with the sibling. Connor has never adjusted to a sibling, right? Johnny is the only one that he actually adjusted to and likes, but you could tell Johnny is kind of Johnny in him. And here's the thing, Johnny and Connor aren't the same age. Johnny treats Connor, you can tell, the same way he treats Katie. Johnny is the typical teen. He deals with his friends that are his peers in his group, and the younger brother, he doesn't run in the circle. And that's normally actually the way it is. Johnny and Connor shouldn't run in the same circle. Connor should have friends his age, right? And Connor's not down about it, but I think Connor wishes he and Johnny were closer, right? So anyway, Chelsea mentions to him. So he apologizes to her. But she mentions, you know what, Con, what's really helped me is having, Dr. So-and-so, my psychologist, to talk to. She helps me say things that, you know what, you just may not want to say to other people. You may have some things you want to say that you don't want to say to your mom or your dad, somebody neutral. I really feel you would benefit from seeing a psychologist, someone getting somebody good, right? And he's like, no, I don't want to. All I need is you, mom. And he hugs her. You're all I need. And so he says, well, so he stops hugging her, and he says he's going to go upstairs to do his finish his homework, or no, get ready for bed. He's going to brush his teeth and go to bed. And so Chelsea says, okay, I'll walk you upstairs. He looks at her. I can walk myself upstairs. And he says, and I will promise I'm going to brush my teeth, you know, before I go to bed. So she lets him go. And she looks at Billy and she's like, you know what? Now I'm really worried. And Billy kind of looks at her like, yeah, something's up with him. Something's really, really needling him. So then we have, you know, Sally's pitching a fit, wanting to leave the room. She's mad because Adam won't tell her truly what's going on with Nick. But she goes, I'm going to worry more not knowing. And he's like, you know what, Sally? Yeah, it's a situation, but Nick's handling it, right? That I'm here. Adam kept trying to divert her attentions. And so she insists she's leaving the room. And she goes, the doctor did not put me on bed rest. She told me to eliminate stress. And staying in these four walls is stressful to me. Stressful enough, you know? So she's like, I'm leaving. So she goes to walk out the door because Adam hid her shoes. As if she only had one pair of shoes, Sally. One pair of walking shoes? I don't think so, but okay. So he goes, Sally, you can't go like that. And she turns around, she's out the door, like at the threshold. She's like, why? He goes, you don't have any shoes on. So she looks down and she comes walking back in and she's like, now she's talking mad and looking for her shoes. And I'm thinking, go in your closet, girl, and get another pair of shoes. You have more than one, right? So he finally gets the shoes out the trash because she goes, I'm going to go out just like this, right? So he gives her shoes and they go to society. And they're talking and she gets this sharp, sharp pain. And he's like, what's the matter? She's like, I don't know, Adam, but something's wrong. Something's really wrong. She's like, doubling over, you know. So Adam takes her to the hospital. Now, Elena's who, you know, they see, but before Elena got there, she saw Billy and Victoria in the lobby. I mean, in the restaurant eating, and you know, they really weren't eating. They had finished eating. Nate was going over some of the things, how he felt McCall was vulnerable, you know, what he had been looking into. And Victoria's telling him, yes, she wants him to take over for Nick. Now, Nick, you know, take over for Nick, and he's up for the task, oh, blah, blah, blah. And believe it or not, she says, Audra can oversee, you know, the happenings at Nuba Media, you know, while you're assisting me in Nick's role. And she goes, matter of fact, some of the things that Nate brought up, she says, look, I want you to put Audra to work on these things because that's going to keep her busy and she's good at research. So Victoria recognizes her wealth. And he goes, you know what? I'm glad you see that about Audra because no, I mean, Audra does a good job. And Victoria says, don't think I don't know exactly who Audra is. And he goes like, what does he goes, what does that mean? She goes, I know who she is and what she wants. And she wants your job. And he goes, she says, for now, I'm entertaining her. For now. See, Victoria, once Newman Media, that position is open, I honestly don't think she's going to give it to Audra because she doesn't like her, actually. And remember when she hired Nate, I must have a CEO that I like, that I want to work with. So we'll see. Victoria's going to stab Audra in the back, but she would promote Nate. She honestly would. So Elena walks in and she sees them and she couldn't help herself. So she says some snipey things to them. And Nate's like, look, Elena, I'm the one that you truly hate. Look, let's go someplace in private and talk. And Victoria says, no, I got this, Nate. And Elena just looks at her and she goes, Elena, and she stands up. You know, sorry that it's hurting. I've been in, you know, breakups before. yes, they hurt, but we're able to actually then move on. And Elena just looks at her. She says, you know what? You two are perfect for each other. You two. She says, before long, both of your true colors are going to come out and you're going to see each other for who you really are. And she says, and you're going to just destroy each other. She said, I'm looking forward to watching it happen. And she turns and she walks away. And Victoria and Nate stands up because, well, when Victoria stood up, Nate stood up too. And they just turn and look. And Victoria said, you know, she's hurt, but she'll get over it. You know, she'll move on. And Nate said, you know, I never wanted to hurt Elena. That was never, ever my intention. He said, but, oh, I'm right where I need to be. And I'm happy right where I am. And Victoria is looking up and gazing in his. Victoria is really the one having more of the wool pull over her eyes than Nate is, because Victoria is not pulling the wool over Nate's eyes, but Nate is pulling the wool over her eyes, meaning he is not as into her as he is pretending to be into her to get exactly where he wants and where he wants to be. My honest impression, well, for one, they're going to make Audra have a little thing with Kyle. That's going to be a very little thing. Audra would not fit in that whole Abbott situation. She couldn't exist living in the same home with Kyle, his son, and his parents. She couldn't. See, Summer fit that. And even she had a problem with Diane, right? But Audra, the kind of person she is, Diane will see right through her and just be so disapproving and judging, right? So that Audra Kyle storyline would not go long. I do believe Audra and Nate are going to sleep together more than once because they already are establishing a pattern of meeting and drinking in her room. Nate loves to let alcohol be the reason for his bad judgment. Loves it. And Audra will happily use that to her advantage. So we both can pretend, oh, we had a little too much to drink. Or did we? So so then Elena changed, I guess shower changed and went to work. And that's where Sally and Adam walk in. So Elena calls her OB, but she's also ordering tests, getting a triage nurse in there. They get Sally, you know, in a bed and the whole 9 yards. So we shall see what happens with that. Now, on to the good stuff. Sharon, remember it left off cliffhanger. Cameron walked down them stairs and said, hello, Sharon. And it shocked her. And he talked about, no, yeah, he sent Chance on a wild goose chase and he called Nicholas and sent him somewhere else to look for Faith. So they're alone. So he's going through his usual demented self. Oh, he wants her. He did all this for her. You know, and his little Newman uniform had dirt on it, right? Smudges of dirt. But oh, he's taking her away. He has enough money that they can live anywhere she wants to live in the lap of luxury. I don't remember past tense that Cameron Kirsten was rich, but maybe he was well off, because remember when he kidnapped Sharon, that was a private plane. That was a private plane. So maybe he does have access to money. I just don't remember his backstory, right? Because actually, I wasn't watching during that period when that happened. So if anybody knows, did he come from money? Did he have money? What's the deal? The way he's talking to Nick is not like he came from money, because he calls Nick an entitled rich boy. So that's not somebody that's come from money, right? But anyway, Sharon is like, let me speak to my daughter. I have to know she's safe. And then he would blow up. No, you're gonna agree to go with me, or you'll never see your daughter again. And she would say, okay, fine. And she would try to psychologically talk to him. And then she goes, but look, all this can't happen. I can't even feel good about any of this, going away with you and building a future, talking about a future with you, till I know my baby girl is safe. She would always bring it right back to Faith. And Cameron is like, you don't have a choice, because you don't know where Faith is. He let her know it, because it ain't where I sit in it, or it's definitely not where Chance is looking, right? So Sharon says, okay, fine, you win. I'll go with you, but let me go upstairs and get some clothes. He goes, no. I'm gonna buy you all new clothes. Be ready. We're leaving right now. And when Sharon had she had a purse in her hand, because when Cameron said hello, Sharon, she actually had her purse. The purse was there. But during the course of their conversation, she did pick up her phone and text. So Nick was the one that came walking down the stairs. And I thought, did they have some kind of back door upstairs? That's the way everybody's going to start coming in her house, down her stairs, right? I was fully expecting Nick to be looking at through her picture window, which is across the room where the dining room table is, throwing something huge through it, or come barrel running and diving through that window. I thought he was going to do that, but oh no, he came down those stairs the way Cameron came down those stairs on Sharon and said, get away from her. And I thought, go ahead, Nick, right? And him and Cameron are fighting, and Nick had Cameron on the ground. She's punching. What I don't understand, Sharon said, Nick, no, Nick, because in her mind, she's thinking, we don't know where Faith is. You can't kill him, because then we may never know where Faith is, right? So Nick's trying to push her off, like, Sharon, leave me alone. I'm pummeling, right? I'm pummeling. And that gave Cameron the edge to push Nick and Sharon. Cameron gets up, Nick gets up, and Sharon comes back towards Nick, and then Nick kind of pushes her back, because see, Sharon is like, why are you coming up getting where this guy could get his hands on you? He goes, Sharon, leave, call for help. I mean, Sharon just, Nick, but Nick. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, girl. So she goes to the front door. I said, yeah. And what happened is, and guess what? Who didn't come in? Security. Oh, nowhere to be found. I don't know. Now, mind you, Victor is supposed to be amassing his team together, so there should have been a whole bunch of them. Nobody came. So Cameron and Nick are still fighting, and they get over to that side desk, and Nick has Cameron down, just choking him. Overall, Nick can't beat Cameron, beat the crap out of him. He really can every time. Cameron just happened to get one of this heavy iron, or kind of heavy metal bookend holder, and he hits Nick on the side of his head. And it knocked Nick's out. It just knocked him out on the ground, right? And Sharon's like, at this point, Sharon was yelling for security out the door. And she runs over to Nick, and Cameron says, you've ruined everything, Sharon. You're going to regret everything. This isn't over. And Cameron goes running up the stairs. Again, I'm thinking, okay, what's up with the stairs, right? So Sharon is just, Nick. So we're left there. Nick isn't awake. Or does he wake up at the end? I think he comes to. And she goes, Cameron got away. He got away, Nick. So if he wakes up here, he may wake up on the next episode, but I know Nick ain't dead, right? So that's it for Thursday's Young and the Restless. I'm telling you, this is coming to a head. I see this thing being over tomorrow. I think we're gonna have not a cliffhanger Friday, but a resolution Friday. And or we are going to be at a critical cliffhanger Friday part. So kudos to the movement of the storyline on The Young and the Restless. So I'm really happy with that. So now let's go to Comment Corner. Comment Corner. Brooklyn says, it's sad that they have Sharon in the storyline because I feel it would be more interesting if she ended up being, if she ended up being so successful and opening her own business instead of serving coffee and donuts. She's much better than that, especially when we viewers have no faith will survive. Well, you know what? I'm surprised she didn't go into the direction of her degree. However, let's not forget her little coffee shop is the mainstay in her city. Okay, we may not see people out the lots lining up out the door, but that's just because they don't have that much cast on The Young and the Restless on a daily basis to do that. But that coffee house has always made good money. Always. Can anybody remember the owners of the coffee house before some prior owners? I remember, okay, Nick and Sharon, when they first got married, that was their first little business together, young in their young 20s, you know, maybe 20, young. That's the business they started. Then years later, who did they sell it to, everybody? I remember that. They sold it to Kevin Fisher. Kevin Fisher had Crimson Lights for a minute, but then he realized, that ain't me, right? So he ended up selling it back to either Nick and he gave it to Sharon at some point, or Sharon brought it back. Somehow I kind of think Nick bought Crimson back and gave it to Sharon. Anybody that remembers how it went from Kevin Fisher back into the Newman, Nick and or Sharon's hands? Write that in Comment Corner, because Kevin did end up turning it back over. But Sharon is a very successful business owner. She's choosing to be that hands-on in the one serving coffee, because her staff could easily be doing that. She could be running the books from the back office, or Sharon absolutely does not need to be at the coffee house. Realistically, everybody, she could have her employees running that coffee house, and she could be doing anything else in the world, because she's not broke, she's not poor, and it is very successful. And she owns the property above it. Really, it's actually across the walkway and upstairs. So that's a 2-story building. They never say what's on the bottom story, because you walk out that patio door, you could see the building. They used to, from time to time, they used to show that there was a door across that you go into that building and you go upstairs. So my thing is, I just never understood why it was a one apartment building. There should be also something downstairs, an apartment, but they just never addressed it because, look, they're not trying to do no apartment house, right? But she owns that too and gets rent from that. But she did spend all that time going to school. She could make a practice, but you know what we would have to do? We would now have to bring in storylines, even though a whole lot of people in Genoa City need her help. But instead of sitting at the coffee, and actually, she helps them at her darn coffee house. They need to be setting appointments and us seeing her help them in her office. But the way they have it, it's easier for her to see somebody strike up a conversation and they feel comfortable sharing with her what's happening in their lives, versus I feel I need to make an appointment with Dr. Sharon, right? So I don't know. I would love to have seen her work with the GCPD. Remember when she used to be a liaison, which was kind of a silly little title. When she used to work, that's how she first started working with Ray. They had her little desk across from his, and he didn't like the fact that he had to work with her, right? Or work adjacent to her. She did very good in her job there. I could see her working as a psychological evaluator for him, but for not him, for them. But if that were to happen, we would actually have to have a true police department that was showing. The actor that plays Paul is no longer on the show. I mean, there's no police officer aside from Chance that we truly see. So that would involve them writing more storylines with the police department and her consulting. So that means more cases. So I think they just don't want to have to go into branching out into more storylines than they already have. So they're just bringing the stories to Sharon in her coffee house, because now we can catch all these other characters that stories are going on through that coffee house. So I could see that. I could see it definitely. Brooklyn says Summer should have told Diane that it was okay for me to keep quiet on both you and Jack's plans on stealing my grandmother's necklace and say nothing. Here's the thing, she didn't know about the plans. Kyle knew, didn't say nothing. Kept Summer right out of that, right? There's that liable mission. Kyle didn't know until Jack had gotten back. Because remember, Diane didn't even go. Jack did that heist solo. Jack came back, holding the necklace up, and Summer's like, wait a minute. Is that my grandma's necklace? That's how she knew, and that's when she knew. Okay. And then Brooklyn says, hi, recap lady. Supergirl wasn't being super smart. She should have went to the main house. But no, that's what happens when children want their own way. Oh, you must be talking about Faith, when Faith would not go to the main house when Victor wanted to bring him there. Well, that's Sharon's fault. See, I'm not going to ask you. We're going to your grandparents. We are both going up to the main house. That's how that goes, right? Well, Supergirl is Summer. That's the nickname for Summer. I don't think Nick's nickname for Faith might be Baby Girl. Maybe. It might be Baby Girl. If it's not Baby Girl, I don't think he has a nickname for Faith. But Supergirl is definitely he and Phyllis's nickname for Summer. Let's see. Then Monique says, Mariah has no room to talk about people doing bad things, considering what she did to Sharon, making her think she was Cassie, that Cassie was alive, causing her to go crazy, and she was about to go through electroshock therapy. Yep, that was definitely Mariah. But what Summer did is irreprehensible, Kyle. Okay, Summer. Okay, Mariah. Yeah, all right. Tell us how you really feel. Because you love calling Summer Snowflake. And I'm surprised you still aren't. And that wasn't a term of endearment, right? No, that was always a snarky you little rich snowflake, you know. Okay. So anyway, that was it. I can't wait for tomorrow's episode. I think it's going to be just fantastic. And I'll be back for another daily recap of The Young and the Restless.